Joining us now, the co-host of the Ruthless podcast, part of the Fox family, got Josh Holmes, Comfortably Smug, Michael Duncan in the third spot, and John Ashbrook. Guys, welcome. And I start with this. Even if you agree with the president, do you think, Josh, that we're in danger of alienating our very sensitive European allies?
I mean, look, this is a part of the world, Europe and actually most of the world, that has benefited a great deal from an American governance that is totally comfortable being taken advantage of, right? They've got everything from their economic deals and their trade deals that don't benefit American workers. They have huge trade deficit issues in this country in comparison to what it is that we're dealing with in Europe. They love that. They don't want anybody to ruffle the cages. And so, but at the same time, they also want America to be the big brother and step in every time they have a problem. So, of course, this whole thing throws it all into total chaos. I will say that Mark Rutte, he's the NATO guy. That guy seems to have a relationship with Trump in a way that nobody else does. The rest of them sort of wring their hands and become ridiculous about it. But every time that guy's in a room with Trump, they kind of see eye to eye. And I think this Greenland thing is a perfect example of it.
Well, and I wouldn't call it alienation. I would say, like, these European leaders need their cage rattled a little bit by somebody like Donald Trump. You know, as the head of the EU, said when it comes to the investment that these states were making in the defense of their countries, right? And I think, Scott Besson mentioned this when he went over there to Davos. But 4 years on here in this Russian conflict, and they're still buying Russian oil, right? And it's like, so, I mean, these they talk about this framework that they've had, this international order that's worked perfectly since World War II. It seems like they're still not figuring it out.
Well, it's been an awful long time since we've heard any European talk about border sovereignty. But let me tell you something about Greenland. It is much closer to America than you think. It's as close to New York City as Honolulu is to Los Angeles. This is an important piece of land, and it wouldn't be the first time an American president bought an island from Denmark. A Democrat president, Woodrow Wilson, bought the Virgin Islands to defend our country from the German threat. And if a Democrat president is allowed to buy an island from Denmark in the 19-teens, then a Republican president sure as hell should be able to buy an island from Denmark to protect us from modern threats.
And Smug, look at this headline. I'll have you comment. On Politico, Trump's Greenland gambit broke brains across D.C. So they're as bent out of shape where you are as they were in Europe. I'm not sure the rest of the country. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, if there's any group of people who need their brains broken, it's the folks in Washington, D.C., who've been a part of and managed the decline of this country for so long. But there's a new sheriff in town who believes in America first. For so long, America has been the benevolent caretaker for Europe. Since the 1980s, America has spent over $25 trillion on defense that benefits Europe, that keeps Europe safe. And just like John brought up a second ago, meanwhile, Europe has been trying to stop Russia from gobbling up countries in Europe, but they're buying oil from Europe because they went with their crazy harebrained ideas of maybe we should have a Green New Deal for Europe and we can have windmills that can support our countries. And it didn't work out. But Trump knows how to take care of them.
You don't think Greta had the best interests of
Germany? Yeah, clearly not.
Yeah. Right. Hey, guys, I want you to, that's where the Republican Party is right now. I think most thoroughly back Donald Trump. I think it's very interesting that the world's got problems, but we're still the only ones solving them. We're trying to bring peace to Ukraine and Russia alone. We actually bombed out Iran's nuclear program. That's been the problem for 25 years? And then in Venezuela, that annual issue was taken care of, at least for now. We seem to be the only one addressing the problems, but that's not the way it always was. I thought this was kind of interesting. Another podcast, not as good as yours. Bill Maher was on it. Dana Carvey was there, and they talked about the good old days of being a Democrat, what it used to mean. Watch.
I used to get nominated for everything, and then the wokeness came in, and then I was considered conservative, which
are you bad?
Ridiculous. So I was what I call soft canceled. Yeah, where you don't
Well, I'm a Bill Clinton liberal, which is from the 90s, which is now called a Nazi.
Exactly right.
Yeah. You're a white supremacist.
Hey guys, Smug, would you say, is that what I know you have Democratic friends. Is that how they feel? If you're a moderate Democrat, do you feel exiled?
So I don't have any Democrat friends. John Ashbrook is friends with plenty of them. But I think Dana brings up a terrific point. Is that it's not like the folks shifted. Not anyone in the middle, not even people who are Clinton Democrats. The Overton window got pushed so far to the left, especially starting with Obama, who entered office saying that, like, I'm going to fight illegal aliens. I'm not going to be for gay marriage. And then just look at how far that moved under the Obama years. And then Trump won, and he completely broke their brains across the country. And the left now became, okay, yes, we believe in trans children and rioting to get our way and supporting criminals and illegal aliens who are committing sex crimes and murdering people in America. I will take their side over people who are attending church. That's how far left they've gone.
Yeah, and I think, look, Brian, it's an interesting thing that's happened. I mean, if you look at the last 20, 25 years of American politics, Republicans and primary voters in the conservative side of the ecosystem have been largely open to arguments by different Republican politicians. You'd think of like Bush, Romney, Trump. None of them have anything to do with one another. The overlap on the Venn diagram is like almost non-existent. But yet different arguments have resonance in different ages and different periods of time. What we've seen out of the left, there is no argument. It is absolutely this left-hand adhesion to just straight communism, socialism, America last, America is the worst. Yep. And it seems like a race to the bottom at this point for the entire Democrat Party.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a shame because we are supposed to be celebrating our 250th birthday. So I thought this was an interesting poll. Not great for Republicans. I also saw one poll that said on every major issue, the Republicans are preferred than the Democrats. But on the Siena poll, the question is, do you think the country is generally better off than it was a year ago? And as I mentioned, 32% said yes, 49% said no. Do you want to tackle that, John?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Brian, I think a lot of that has to do with information silos, and the left simply will not read something that doesn't confirm their prior convictions. They won't. They're not interested in people who think differently than them. And that is a big problem in our country because there is a lot of good that is happening, a lot of growth that's happening. And I thought it was very interesting. I just want to go back to the three comedians who are very famous men that you played in that clip. And all three of those guys are lean to the left. And all three of those guys have been ostracized by the left simply because they're irreverent. And you're not allowed to be irreverent in a woke society. You're not allowed to read things that are different in a woke society. And that's what drives the disparate reactions to what's happening in our country.
I think that's part of the problem. I think you also just have to sell the agenda. I was reading a lot of the verbatims out of that poll, Brian, and there were people in there saying, oh, well, Trump's too focused on foreign policy. I care more about things like tax cuts. And it's like, well, welcome to the working family's job, tax cut. And
boy,
it's like,
I got something for you.
Some people just don't know. Right. And I know that Susie Wiles and the president's team are very focused on getting the president out there ahead of this midterm to sell the agenda. And I think that's huge news.
Guys, it's great to know, too. Not only will you appear with us on Sunday, but you're able to work through the snow all throughout the week. Yeah. Sleep in the studio. America needs to hear all of your voices. Thanks, Ruthless, guys.